What is an asylum seeker? An asylum seeker is a person who has been forced to leave his or her home in order to escape war, persecution, or natural disasters. According to Amnesty International, many countries have stepped up border control in order to prevent refugees from reaching them. This often results in human rights violations. For example, in 2013, approximately 10,000 refugees from the Middle East, Africa, and Asia sought protection in Australia, according to the Department of Immigration and Citizenship. The Regional Resettlement Agreement between Australia and Papua New Guinea is an Australian government policy in which refugees seeking asylum in Australia without visas are settled in Papua New Guinea for further processing and often indefinite detention. The inefficiency of the policy to provide refugees with asylum claims, in addition to the long-term resettlement of refugees into camps with inhumane living conditions, has led to riots and bloodshed in Australia's refugee camps. Northern Africa and the Middle East is one of the most politically turbulent, war-torn regions of the world. It isn't uncommon for refugees from Syria, Eritrea, and Iraq to seek refuge in Sudan, Egypt, and other northern African countries. On March 14th, the UN called on Egypt to investigate the trafficking, extortion, and torture of refugees by Egyptian police in the Sinai Peninsula. Not a single investigation has come to fruition. In 1967, the United Nations created the Convention and Protocol relating to the status of refugees, which outlined who can be considered a refugee. The document does not discriminate based on an individual's country of origin. In spite of this, however, refugees fleeing North Korea, perhaps the most oppressive totalitarian regime in the world, are not recognized by China as asylum seekers. In other words, refugees fleeing North Korea by way of China, if intercepted by Chinese authorities, will be sent back to North Korea, where they face torture, detention, and capital punishment. What does all of this mean? What is the common thread among human rights violations of refugees worldwide? Like many social issues, the problem begins from the top down and transcends all forms of government. Whether we are talking about the Supreme Council of the Egyptian Armed Forces, the bipartisan democracy of Australia, or the oppressive communist Chinese government, policies have been put in place by governments worldwide which ignore the immediate needs of asylum seekers, including access to urgently needed health care, food, and shelter. What is the solution? Strict and uncompromised scrutiny and retribution for all countries that fail to cooperate with the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees. Forming a broader, more encompassing definition of refugee so that it includes all individuals who flee their country to escape threats upon their lives or freedom. Finally, on an individual level, we can abandon our sentiments of arbitrary nationalism, realizing that no rights are exclusive to a group of people based on where they were born. No one chooses to be born into a war-torn country. Nobody voluntarily waives their rights of freedom of speech or religion. As it is written in Article 14 of the Declaration of Human Rights, everyone has the right to enjoy in other countries asylum from persecution.
Created using Powtoon.